FIDE World Cup 2025 has another surprise, and I believe it won't be the last one. Gukesh, unfortunately for himself, was eliminated today against Frederick Svan, German Grandmaster. And what's a bit surprising to me, how many German players are still in the game, are still in the World Cup, but we'll talk about it a little bit later in the video. But let's take a look at the game played today. Gukesh was playing with white pieces. They made it during the first round, and now Gukesh had white pieces. And of course, you're playing with white pieces against lower rated opponents. You want to strike, but sometimes some things go wrong. Like we saw Jan Nepomniachtchi get eliminated. We saw Wesley So resigning in a drum position, and now we have the world champion playing with white pieces. But let's see what happens. So he starts with e4, his, let's say, main move, and Frederick plays e5. Against the world champion, you generally want to be very solid with black pieces, so you kind of avoid playing Sicilian defense or any other opening, but e5 is just a must-do move in this type of situation. You're playing with black, second game of the match, you make a draw, you go to tie breaks, and I think Frederick would be happy if he would have gone to tie breaks. Knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4. We have Italian game on the board. Knight f6, d3. Of course, Gukesh doesn't go for knight g5 for all these complications. He played very solid d3 line. Bishop goes to c5, castle, and now d6, supporting e5 pawn. And this usually, this Italian positions are very boring. You're playing strategical chess, and there's honestly not much. Like Black's idea is always to push d5. Of course, d5 early might be bad, so it's better to prepare like d6, then bishop e6, and only then you try to push d5 in the center. c3, a5. a5 is another typical move for Italian games, because guys, you just really want to avoid, being passive. Let's say a6 is possible as well, allowing b4, but a5 is just to prevent b4 at all costs. And let's say if you do some passive move like castle, it's probably already maybe slightly better for white. Again, you might play 5 b5 and some knight e7. Again, not something critical. It's playable for black pieces, but again, you just kind of want to avoid this, giving white so much space. So in the game we had, excuse me, you saw the accuracy. That's fine. a5, rook goes to e1, now castle. And sometimes, players, might do some stupid stuff like knight g4. Of course, knight g4 here doesn't really work because you strike with d4, but knight g4 with the idea of taking on f2. Castle, h3, h6. So the idea is just to prevent bishop g5, and of course, white played the same to prevent bishop g4. Knight bd2, bishop goes to b6. Again, not a move that needs a lot of discussing, honestly, but to me bishop a7 would be like bishop b6 is, yeah, computer evaluates it better than bishop a7, but to me bishop a7 is just, I don't know all the like kind of deep ideas with black pieces here, so maybe bishop b6 is a move, and it is a good move. Like personally, yeah, bishop e6 is what computer recommends as well, and bishop e6 looks very logical to me. I would honestly play it and then rook e8 and then try to push d5 in the center. Bishop b6, he goes a4, bishop d7, now b3. And once again, deep dark forest. White are trying to play very positional, potentially pushing d4 in the center. Of course, he can't do it right now because e takes d4 and black are just up a pawn, but the idea is to potentially develop bishop to b2 and eventually striking by playing d4. Bishop e6, and now we finally get this on the board. The idea is at some point, of course, play d5. Bishop b2, king h8, rook a2. Very interesting move, but once again, as you might see, that's the third line of computer, but it's very hard to understand why this move is good, but it's quite typical to just make sure this pawn is protected in many lines. Rook a2, knight goes to h5, and now we see finally some activity from black pieces. Knight h4, knight h5, tries to jump to f4, knight f1, knight f4, and suddenly queen f6. And the idea for black here right now is potentially start some attack on the king side. So that's why king was brought to h8, so the g5, rook j8, and g4 would come. Knight g3, g5, knight h2, king g6, bishop e3, and now finally d5 strike in the center. And as you might see, Frederick already equalized the game. E takes d5, bishop d5, bishop b6 takes, and now knight f3 attacking the pawn on e5, and just rook d8. And you might ask, why not knight e5? The idea is simple: knight f5, rook e5. There is bishop c4. Oh, I mean, there is bishop c4. There's also bishop g2. But basically, pawn on d3 is a weakness. Right now, everything falls off for white pieces. It would be a disaster for the world champion. Rook d2 is played. And that's another idea why rook a2 was played, just to make sure the rook is on time and potentially tries to play d4, and also avoid any pins with this queen on d file. Bishop c4, d takes c4, trying to trade some pieces, and now simple f6. And as you might see by looking at the evil bar, black have a slight advantage. I mean, it's not huge on this level. Minus 0.2 is very little. Minus 0.5 is already something that you know, top players would argue about and would try to win, try to, you know, squeeze you in their hands. Queen d2, rook goes to d8, queen f3, attacking the pawn on b6, and now f5 attacking the knight on e4. Knight goes back, and now knight d3 attacking the rook. So rook goes to d1, and now f4 fork, and also protecting the knight on d3. Queen goes to e4. I mean, once again attacking this one. If we have to either take or play king h7 to protect the queen, king h7 was chosen as an option. Takes, takes, knight e4, king f5, knight d2, and we got an endgame. We got an endgame, as you may see, minus 0.7. I mean, it's not that huge, but what can you notice about this position? So the first thing you notice is that black's king is very passive. Oh, white's king is passive, black's king is very, very active, and white pieces are just, you know, I just don't like how they're placed. Rook on d1 is terrible, knight d2, knight d4, knight has to protect the knight, while we have active knight on d3, we have knight that protects the rook, rook is on open d file. So it's a dream position for Frederick, who is already trying to play for something more than just a draw. Knight c5, rook e1. Here Gukesh had g4, and g4 looks like it would have saved him big time, because f take g3, f take g3, and then let's say knight e4. There's rook f1 check. Now king has to move, let's say king g6, and now white already better. So the best move here would be king g6 for black pieces, but as you might see, rook e1, and now white kind of consolidated and they don't have any further problems. Rook e1, knight d3, rook b1, h5, and now finally Frederick decided to do some pushes. f3. f3 is played. Once again, as you might see, the evil bar is showing zeros. And rook d3, trying to potentially put some pressure on pawns. King f2, g4, takes, takes, rook e1, g3. And it's very crucial to notice that potentially, you know, let's say this knight or this knight comes to h4. Let's say this knight comes to h4. There are some problems with g2 pawn. And, you know, you might have some problems along the way. King d1, rook e1 takes, king e6. And as you might see, the endgame is now -1. King d1, knight e7, knight f5, knight g5, king e7, knight e4, and now king e6 back. Knight g5, and of course, not agreeing to a draw, king e7, knight c5 takes, -2 advantage. And this advantage only because basically knight h4 is coming. If king f1 was to be played, guess what? There is knight e3. This pawn is attacked, and if king g1, you know, I'm not sure what would be the easiest way, but the easiest way is just to try and attack the pawns. I'm just not sure how computer wins this one. Like, I'm just trying to understand, like, yes, you protect this pawn, like, and like, what's the idea? The idea is just to play knight d6, knight g5, king f6. So I assume knight e4 is just losing immediately. Oh, so it's actually, wait, this, king f5, knight c7, and basically e4. And suddenly it turns out that white are hopeless. Okay, but again, it's very complicated endgame, like you still gotta win it. But after king d3, Gukesh basically said, alright buddy, I don't need this g2 pawn, you can take it. But the problem is after knight e3, g2 is coming, and the pawn on c4 is hanging, and after king e2 knight c4, Gukesh resigned, and he is out of the FIDE World Cup 2025. Honestly, I would have loved it if Gukesh would have proved that he's passing the knockout format, but you know, it's just very tough. Like, you know, I've been following World Cups for a very long time. Magnus had a lot of chances in those World Cups, but he only won the last one in 2023, and before that he was, I mean, people were eliminating him each year. Like, I remember World Cup, I believe it was in Batumi, Georgia. Chinese Grandmaster Buxianji eliminated Magnus very early in the tournament. So, you know, it's a tough tournament for everyone, especially for top players who are trying to prove they belong on top. And we had a lot of sensations, and now Frederick Swane is through the next round. But I also want to show you a game played between Vladimir Fedoseev and Radoslav Wojtaszek. So, a little bit prehistory. Radoslav won the first game, and Vladimir is in a must-win situation with black pieces. And he chooses a very, very, very bad opening to play. You know, I remember when I was a kid, my coach said, okay, you want to try something fun, try to play this. I mean, you don't have to learn any theory, you just try to attack the pawn on e4, bishop d3, and f5. And as you might see by looking at the evil bar, this position is already +1. And of course, Radoslav Wojtaszek is a very, very strong grandmaster. And bishop g2 is played, queen h5 +2. The position is already winning on move 6. g6, f takes g6, bishop g7, g takes h7. And you look at this position, you're like, is this guy really a grandmaster? I mean, 2706, like, what is going on with this guy? And yes, the answer is simple. Yes, he's 2706 guy, very, very strong grandmaster, and he chose this just to kind of get the opponent from the prep. But at the same time, like, you're playing with fire. You're choosing an opening which is just absolutely terrible. Bishop g5, knight f6. You might ask, why not just take, let's say, on j8, king j8, and now the position is actually equal because black take the rook on h1. So that's not a possibility. Bishop g5, knight f6, queen h4, bishop h1, and now white are down a rook. But the problem is their position is so terrible that this rook doesn't really matter. And knight c6, knight c3, e5. And now, actually, if you look at the evil bar, it's only, I mean, it's equal. It's already equal. So castle was played. He takes d4, rook h1, d takes c3, and now guess what? Black are already better. Knight d5 is played, the best move, bishop c2, king f7, knight h5, knight f3, queen f4, and now once again, white are winning. Couple of mistakes, and after bishop g6, 20 moves win for Radoslav Wojtaszek, who is through the next round of the FIDE World Cup. The idea is now king 7, rook e1, king e8, rook e8, exploiting the pin, and queen e8, of course, bishop e8. And now we take the full house from black pieces. And now let me quickly show you what is happening across the boards and what tiebreaks we'll see tomorrow. So, Frederick Swane eliminated Gukesh Damoraju. Arjun Rigazi, who is proven that he is belonging on top. He is usually very successful against, let's say, sub 2700 players, and he's continuing his rise in this FIDE World Cup. Pragas on to the next round. Alexander Donchenko made another huge upset in the World Cup, defeating Anish Giri in game number 2, and Anish, I mean, he's already qualified and he is out. V Pranav is through the next round. We have a lot of Indians as well. Vincent Keimer, he is one of the probably favorites remaining in this tournament, so hopefully he will make it to the candidates. And yet another German player. If you look at the German players here, Vincent Keimer, Alexander Donchenko, Frederick Swane are all through the next round of FIDE World Cup. Benjamin Glidurovey, we have a tiebreak here. Jose Martinez defeated Nadirbek Abdulsatorov 2-0 with both white and black pieces. Niels Grandelius defeated Shahriar Mamedov. I can't say it's an upset because Shah is, no, he's an old player, but Niels, I mean, almost, yeah, it's definitely 100 rating points difference between them, so we can call it an upset. Lorenzo Ladici, who defeated Hans Niemann in the previous round, now knocks out Michael Adams. Michael had a good tournament. He could have won in the first game. He had some advantage, but Lorenzo, managed to stay on, and now is on to the next round. Vladislav Artemiev, Maxim Vassilograf are going to tie breaks. Gabriel Sarkisyan defeated Tip Tangosh, who eliminated Jan Pomnish in the previous round. Lech Van Liam defeated Jeffrey Sean. Richie Rapport, Yagis, Connor Dogmus are heading to tiebreak as well. Yvonne Aronian, another veteran who won the FIDE World Cup twice in his career, is now again from the next round of the FIDE World Cup. And, you gotta watch out for him. He is great in this knockout format, but again, he never counts even on great results previously, because look, it's just a tournament basically of 2 games. You might get lucky and whatnot. Yavahir Sindarov, young talent this route, he defeated Nicolas Teodoro. Narayan Sinuladlina tiebreak is being played tomorrow here in this pairing as well. Radislav Vaitashek, we just saw it. Sam Shankland, Vidit Gujarati, that's another very interesting pairing, and we are heading to tiebreaks. Kartik Venkatamaran, Bogdan Daniel Zak are heading to tiebreaks. We potentially have a lot of Indians going through the next round. Avandra Liang, another huge talent, he defeated the brother of Frederick Svane, Rasmus Svane, who actually had a huge win in the previous round against Rauf Mamedov. And unfortunately for him, this tournament ends, and Avandra is through the next round. Alexei Grebnev, who got the wild card by defeating Maurizi, French Grandmaster Maurizi, for a wild card spot. He won against David Navarro in the previous round, and now against Tamatis Kurkulus in round number 4, I guess. And he's through the next round. Evgeny Nair, M7, we are heading to tiebreaks. Pintala Harikrishna, who defeated, Arseniy Nesterov in the last round, he's going through the next round as well. He defeated Daniel Darha 1.5 to half point. Alexei Sarana won the first game, but unfortunately lost to Jordan Van Forest in the second game, and this pair is going to tiebreaks. Parham Maksudlu defeated Ivan Sharic in 2 games, and another huge match here. Puyai Dani won the first game against Andrei Sipenka, but Andrei managed to come back in today's game, and this pairing is heading to tiebreaks as well. Nadirbek Yakubov is playing against Taidai Van Gien from Czech Republic. Tiebreak, Ivan Zemlyansky lost to Matthias Blubaum, who is qualified for the candidates and now is going through to the next round of FIDE World Cup. And another German player, Daniel Dubov, George Meyer. George Meyer, by the way, he is technically German, but he represents Uruguay, so there's going to be a tiebreak. Peter Leko, surprisingly for me, defeated Kirill Alexeyenko, who was a participant of FIDE Candidates 2021 in Yekaterinburg. I believe he qualified, I'm not sure if it was a wild card to candidates or through Grand Swiss, but he's a strong player, and Peter Leko managed to, the legend, and he's going through. And the last pair, Mustafa Elmas lost to Shan Sargsyan in 2 games, and we have a lot of tie breaks to watch out tomorrow. But yeah, it's a very interesting tournament. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Let me know any feedback, any questions you might have, and I'll see you after the tie breaks play tomorrow. Bye bye.